The night was colder than usual in Madrid, the kind of night where even the brightest city lights feel far away, where a man like Cristiano Ronaldo, who had everything the world could offer, sat in his car staring at the empty street ahead. He was the king of football, the idol millions screamed for, the man who broke records and defenders with the same ease. Yet tonight, he felt a quiet emptiness echoing inside him. He didn't know that just a few blocks away, inside the warm glow of a luxury boutique, a young woman named Georgina Rodriguez was finishing her shift, completely unaware that her life, too, was about to change forever. Cristiano had met countless people, models, celebrities, millionaires who wanted to stand close, just to say they'd touched his world. But none of them had ever touched his heart in a way that left a mark when the lights turned off. Georgina, meanwhile, spent her evenings folding expensive clothes she could never afford, smiling politely at customers who barely noticed her name tag. She dreamed of bigger things, but dreams felt distant when rent was due and her train rides home were long and silent. On this night, fate was waiting patiently, hidden between the polished glass doors and the soft jazz playing in that boutique. Cristiano's friend had insisted they stop by the store, just for a gift. Nothing more, and Ronaldo, tired from training and restless from thoughts he couldn't silence, agreed. Maybe he hoped the city's lights would distract him. Maybe he hoped he'd find something that made him feel something. When he stepped inside, the warmth of the store wrapped around him. He should have noticed the shelves, the polished shoes, the designer bags, but his eyes found her instead, Georgina, standing under the soft white lights, fixing a display she had fixed 1,000 times before, not knowing that tonight it would fix her future, too. She looked up. For a second that felt too long to be ordinary, their eyes met. Cristiano Ronaldo, the man whose face was on every billboard, and Georgina Rodriguez, the girl whose world was small but her heart was wide open, were now standing under the same roof, breathing the same air, caught in a silence so fragile that even a whisper could have broken it. She didn't know what to say. He didn't want to say too much. But in that first glance, something stirred between them, something neither trophies nor luxury could buy. He moved closer, pretending to look at the bags, but his mind wasn't on leather or price tags. It was on the girl whose eyes looked at him not like a superstar, but like a man who might be hiding behind all that shine. He asked her about the collection. His voice, softer than the headlines made him seem. She explained, her hands trembling just enough for him to notice. Their small talk was a dance, polite, careful, but underneath it, curiosity sparked like fire on cold hands. If someone had told Georgina that morning, that tonight she would meet the world's greatest footballer and he would look at her like she was the only thing worth noticing, she would have laughed. But tonight was not ordinary. Tonight was the night two completely different worlds brushed against each other for the first time, about to collide in ways that neither of them could have planned or stopped. And as they spoke, hidden behind polite words and nervous smiles, the city outside stayed unaware that a story was beginning, one that would soon set headlines on fire, one that would test them with storms they couldn't see coming, and one that would make them fight for a kind of love that very few ever survive. Their story had found its first page, written in a glance, sealed with an unspoken promise that this was only the beginning. The secret didn't stay secret for long. But before the world found out, there were stolen days and hidden nights that belonged only to Cristiano and Georgina, moments they guarded fiercely, like fragile glass that could shatter under too much light. After that first unexpected meeting in the boutique, Ronaldo couldn't get her out of his mind. Between training sessions and trophy ceremonies, his thoughts kept drifting back to the girl who had looked at him like he was just a man, not a legend. For Georgina, life began to feel unreal. She still woke up early, still took the same metro, still folded clothes behind the glass counter. But sometimes, late at night, her phone would buzz and her heart would race. It would be him, a simple message asking if she could slip away for an hour, if she could meet him where no one would see. Sometimes he would wait for her outside the store in his car, windows tinted, engine humming like a heartbeat that matched hers. The first time she stepped into his world beyond the boutique lights, she felt like she was stepping into another universe. The restaurants he chose were hidden behind private doors, with quiet corners where whispers floated instead of gossip. There were no photographers, no hungry eyes waiting to sell secrets. Just him and her, talking about things that didn't belong in headlines, favorite songs, childhood memories, little regrets that only come out when someone makes you feel safe enough to speak them. He told her about his mother, how he missed her cooking when he was far from home. He told her about his son, the center of his world, the boy who gave him purpose when the stadium lights went out. She listened the way no one else did. And when she spoke about her family, her mother's sacrifices, her dreams that had shrunk with bills and reality, he saw in her a kind of courage that trophies could never buy. They laughed about things no one would believe. How he struggled to trust people. How she still got shy when he complimented her. How strange it was that the man who could silence thousands with one kick of the ball was now fumbling for words just to keep her near a little longer. Sometimes they didn't speak at all. They'd drive through Madrid's empty streets, his hand resting on hers, the world outside their own tiny planet. In those moments, he felt free. She felt chosen. Neither of them said it out loud, but both knew they were falling deeper each night. Every secret glance pulling them closer to a point where turning back would be impossible. But secrets have sharp edges. Whispers began to swirl, a shadowy photo here, a rumor there. Reporters started camping outside places Ronaldo liked to visit. One night, when he dropped her home, a camera flash exploded through the dark like a gunshot. Georgina froze. He grabbed her hand, told her not to worry. But she did worry. She knew what fame could do. How cruel it could be. She wasn't ready to become a headline, a target for strangers who would twist her name until it didn't feel like hers anymore. Yet no fear was strong enough to kill what had started between them. The next day, he showed up again, this time not just in a quiet car, but at her doorstep with flowers in one hand and a promise in the other. He told her she didn't have to hide anymore. Not from him, not from the world. He was ready. If they were going to talk, let them talk. He would protect her from every storm they tried to send her way. She believed him because when he looked at her, she didn't see Ronaldo the superstar. She saw Cristiano, the man who wanted to belong to someone who didn't care how many goals he scored, who didn't care how many millions he made. Someone who cared only about whether he came home happy. And so the secret grew bigger than they could hold in shadows. Slowly, they stepped into the light, a dinner here, a quiet holiday there, holding hands when they thought no one was watching but everyone was. Some called her lucky. Some called her something worse. But he held her closer through every ugly word. He reminded her that only they knew what was real between them. Then, one morning, everything changed. Georgina felt it before the test confirmed it, a small flutter inside her, a promise growing where she'd never imagined. She was pregnant. The news hit her like a wave. Fear, joy, disbelief, all crashing at once. When she told him, his eyes widened, and for a moment, the man who could handle stadiums full of screaming fans looked like a boy who had just been handed his entire future in one trembling heartbeat. He pulled her close, whispered that this was it. This was the family he had always wanted, the home he had always searched for. For Georgina, the fear was still there, the cameras, the gossip, the judgment. But when he held her face in his hands and promised that none of it could break them, she let herself believe. They weren't just lovers now. They were something more, a promise wrapped in the tiny heartbeat growing inside her. Proof that sometimes the world's biggest star and a girl folding handbags could find a forever that no spotlight could destroy. Outside, the world was waiting, hungry to pull them apart. Inside, they were ready to fight. Together. Together. The news spread like wildfire. Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodriguez were expecting a child together. Headlines screamed their names in every language. Cameras hunted them in airports, restaurants, even outside hospitals. The world's obsession with Ronaldo now had a new target. The quiet young woman who had once folded handbags behind a boutique counter and now carried the child of the most famous footballer alive. At first, Georgina struggled with the weight of all those eyes. Strangers who had never spoken to her wrote lies about her every day. Some called her a gold digger. Some said she was using him for fame. Every time she stepped outside, a flashbulb exploded, stealing another piece of her peace. Some nights, she sat in bed, her hands resting protectively on her belly, wondering if love could really survive this much noise. But Cristiano never wavered. Whenever she stumbled, he pulled her back to her feet. Whenever she doubted, he reminded her who she was to him, not a tabloid story, but his home. The mother of the family he had dreamed of long before the world even knew his name. He shielded her with his presence. He held her hand in front of cameras so the world would know she was his. Fully, proudly, forever. When their daughter Alana Martina was born, everything changed again. In that hospital room, with Georgina exhausted but glowing, and their baby's tiny cry filling the walls, Cristiano felt something he had never felt standing on any podium, holding any golden trophy. He felt whole. To Georgina, that tiny heartbeat in her arms made every sacrifice worth it. The gossip, the judgment, the fear. She wasn't just the girl from the boutique anymore. She was a mother. She was his partner. She was proof that fairy tales sometimes grow from the most ordinary places, in the most unexpected moments. After Alana came into the world, their bond only deepened. Georgina stepped into Ronaldo's world completely, not just beside him at matches, but behind him in moments the world would never see. She sat up with him through injuries and bad headlines, through the nights he came home broken by defeat and the mornings he left again, hungry for victory. She became his calm when the stadiums roared too loud, and Ronaldo, who had once wondered if real love was possible for someone like him, finally knew the answer. It was in the way Georgina laughed at his worst jokes, how she wiped away his son's tears like they were her own blood, how she kept their home warm even when storms raged outside their gates. She didn't need the cameras, she didn't need the headlines, she only needed him, and he knew now that was the only thing that mattered. Years passed. They faced heartbreak too, losses no camera could ever catch. But they held each other through it all. They raised their children in a world that never stopped watching, but inside their home they built a quiet, stubborn kind of love that the outside world could never touch. Some people still call it luck. Some still whisper doubts, spin rumors, wait for cracks to show. But Ronaldo and Georgina know the truth. They know what that first glance in a boutique really started. Not a scandal but a family. Not a temporary romance but a forever that they choose. Every single day, and when the crowds scream his name, when trophies shine under stadium lights, when reporters fight to capture his every move, it all fades the moment he steps inside their home. Because, at the end of it all, Cristiano Ronaldo is not just the greatest on the pitch. At home, he's just a man, loving the girl who once sold handbags and now holds his heart in ways no trophy ever could. Their story didn't end when the world found out. It didn't end when their baby was born. It didn't end when the cameras got bored and moved on to the next big scandal. Their story is still being written. Every sunrise when their children run into their room, every quiet dinner when they laugh about nothing at all, every kiss before he boards a flight to chase another dream, because some love stories aren't made for headlines. Some love stories are meant to last, and theirs is one of them.